Ethereum right now is actually pumping up like crazy. Pretty much Bitcoin and Ethereum are leading the way, and then kind of altcoins and some of the hottest mints that are just exploding right now. And we're gonna also be talking about some up and coming projects. All right, as you know, this is a little bit of a different setup. Still back in my hotel on day number 2. Obviously, I still gotta get these videos out, so make sure to smash the like button if you respect the hustle, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. First thing we're gonna talk about, obviously, is gonna be what is going on in the crypto markets, because pretty much Bitcoin and Ethereum are leading the way, and then kind of altcoins and NFTs are gonna follow right after. So Ethereum right now is actually pumping up like crazy, 1.6 ETH, which I actually personally am surprised that I don't even know what is pumping up during this time, but it seems like a lot of smart money are starting to buy into Ethereum, especially when it was at like the 1,000 type of range, 1,200 kind of range. So not really sure if it's gonna go up to 2K or if it's gonna go down. Overall, you know, it kind of is healthier for the market in that, you know, everyone's bag is not as down as it was before, assuming if their NFTs were able to hold in Ethereum value. Now, in general, you know, the NFT markets have pretty much been trading sideways according to the non-cent trend and indexes. Pretty much not too much action going on. It's not like it's pumping or anything. It's just kind of going up a little bit, down a little bit. It's pretty stable for the most part. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of stagnant. But at the same time, some people are getting not as interested in NFTs. Some people become indifferent. And then feels like on Twitter and things and people talking, it's like the space definitely feels like it's getting smaller and smaller every day. But in a way, you know, if you really believe in NFTs in the long term, it actually is a pretty good time to make connections, build those connections, try out different projects, and really build your infrastructure and foundation so that when there is hopefully a bull market in the future, whether it's a year or 2 from now or whatever it's going to be, you're kind of in the position to kind of ride that wave. And so that's personally what I'm looking to do with the Parallax and everything that I'm doing. And I'm noticing that a lot of my friends and people who are building in the space are kind of having the same mindset. So definitely want to keep that in mind. Whether you're a trader, investor, or builder, there are opportunities in the bear market. You don't have to, you know, jump on a bandwagon when everything's pumping up. Sometimes the best place to make connections is when you're doing it when nobody's making money, in a sense, right? All right, so moving on to projects. First one we're going to talk about is going to be Isekai Meta. We did talk about them the other day where the floor price of it was kind of like below the mint, but because the community was so strong and there are certain individuals and groups of people that decided to buy and sweep the floors, the floor price right now is going to be 0.48, which is higher than the mint, which is absolutely great for the project. Now, when I wanted to dig a little deeper into exactly what was going on, you know, using icy tools, so essentially they minted, there was basically like a pump, then it was kind of like dumping a little bit, and then people lose confidence in the project and they're just like, oh, you know, we don't want to mint it, whatever, right? So what essentially happened was during this period of this time, you know, there's someone that swept the floor and the more people actually bought. It's kind of like this. It's like when somebody sweeps the floor, they buy a bunch, obviously the floor is going to increase. Everyone's going to go on icy tools or whatever they choose to look at analytics, and they're going to say, oh my God, like there's so much volume going to this project. And if they like the anime, they like the art, then more people are going to buy, right? And then when more people buy, they share on Twitter and they say, oh my God, Isekai Meta is blowing up, and more people buy. And so the people who enjoy anime art and they want to support anime type projects, they're going to share it with each other and they're going to be like, this is quality, we all believe in it. So if enough people believe in something and enough people believe in the value of the assets should be higher, then if they all buy it, of course, the value of the asset is going to pump. There's going to be like 2 types of people who buy NFTs, right? One is like the person who just wants to flip and they want to make money and they actually don't even care what the project is as long as they somehow have the potential to make money, right? Now, there are also people who want to buy projects because they feel like they are investing into a project, they believe in the project, and they want to help it out by buying an NFT. Those people also are the ones that are going to be diamond handing. There's the ones that are going to be holding. There's the ones that are going to kind of keep the floor a little more stable compared to people who flip, right? So both have its place. Both kind of are important in the current market of how the NFT space is, but ultimately the project success is going to be dependent on, you know, the people that actually believe in it for the long term. Now, the next project we are going to update you on is going to be the Potatoz by 9gag. So essentially the little potatoes, which was like a little poop thing, they started to kind of hatch and grow these little sprouts. And so what's interesting is that the sprouts have different colors already. So you already have rarity, but you don't even know what the potato is going to look like. In a way, it's kind of innovative in a sense where the rarity came out before the reveal. So it's quite an interesting concept to get people more interested. And of course, like the volume on this has been pretty crazy, 5,000 ETH in volume. So obviously people are buying into this project, degenning into this project. Royalty fees are going to be 9%. And then if you want to multiply that by 9%, that's going to be 450 ETH. So far, they've made, you know, over $700,000 on a free mint. So you have to understand the game of how this works, right? When people do a free mint, obviously you have to make money on the royalties, right? And a lot of times, especially during this market, it's actually smarter in some senses to do a free mint, and then you can say like, hey, you know, it's a free mint, don't expect anything, but we might give you some stuff, who knows, right? But if you mint it, it's all up to you because it was free. But obviously every company that understands this, they're going to make a lot of money on the royalties. That's why they keep the royalty and creator fees so high. They could have done 1%, right? But they decided to do 9% because they understand they need to make money to support their team and continue to make money and profit for the project, or reinvest into the project and hire more people. So I think 9gag has been playing it pretty smart during this bear market. Obviously they understand very well how to drive volume into a project, how to get degens into a project, and how to maximize their revenue when it comes to creator fees and bumping that up, right? They're actually a pretty good case study because if they, let's say, did this mint and they charge like 0.05, most likely they create a much better narrative and they probably will make more money in the end by offering it for free. So you have to understand, like, just because something is free, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are giving. It just means that they're optimizing for the current meta. If the current meta was like charge 0.1, then I wouldn't be surprised if more companies were doing 0.1. But because right now the meta is free, then people are doing free. They're building a lot of hype for their main project, which is going to be like the PFP project, right? So they did the MVP, which was like kind of expensive. Then they have the Potatoz, which is free. And then they're going to have the middle one, which is going to be the actual PFP that most people want to get, right? There's always this balance of like mystery and telling people what you're going to give them and setting expectations, right? Because, right now in the NFT space, a lot of people mostly are pretty much like degen gamblers. They're just trying to make money, right? And so a lot of times it doesn't really matter what you offer them, as long as you offer the opportunity to make money. Most likely people will buy if they feel confident that they actually have a shot. Now, if you tell people exactly what you're doing, you're laying it all out, there's no mystery, no surprises, you know exactly what you're going to get, a lot of times people won't buy because they're going to look at it and be like, well, I don't think it's going to take off, so I'm not going to buy it, right? So by kind of mixing the two strategies of like, you have your core offer of what you want to do for the long term and the vision, but at the same time, before you tell people exactly what you're going to do, you create this sense of mystery so that you build the hype and you get the degens in. You kind of fulfill the needs of both sides, of the degens and the core community. What they have done that's really smart is that they are able to capture the imaginations and attention of the NFT market, even during this turbulent and bearish times, because attention is the name of the game in the NFT market, especially during a bear, if you're trying to drive transaction volume. Now, since I'm in Singapore, I'm going to talk about a Singaporean project that I recently just discovered the other day. It's called Crypto Bengz, right? And so a Bing, or Bengz, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, it's pretty much like a punk, right? So it's like crypto punk, Crypto Bengz, but it's very Singaporean. Like a punk is like someone that's just like hanging out, like with their friends late at night, that kind of attitude. It's a small collection. It's going to be 388 NFTs. So it's going to be these little guys over here. And basically there's real world utility. So essentially, basically like a burger place. It's like downstairs in the basement. And then it's like an NFT influence. So the food is pretty good. The restaurant itself is called Wicked Good in Singapore. So, if you have a crypto bank, you have like discounts when you go to the store. And then they're also trying to give you discounts at different Singaporean places. Now, obviously, if you don't live in Singapore, this is probably not going to be for you. But it was just interesting to see that for NFT projects, you don't have to go for the PFP route. You don't have to go for like grand scheme of like, oh, we're going to take over the world and do 10,000 PFPs. Sometimes, like a smaller business can like, start a restaurant, start a food and beverage place, and then have an NFT that will give you discounts for their network of places to eat and places to hang out, right? And so I think when you're seeing like real world adoption and you see like real world benefits to having an NFT, and it's pretty much like a digital membership to get discounts, right? It makes me more bullish on the space, because if it kind of works and people get discounts, it's like, well, it's kind of like free money in a sense, right? This is just like an example, but I can see people doing these type of businesses, in anything, like whether there's a coffee shop, a yoga studio. And I think we're just scratching the surface of like mainstream adoption, and this is just an example. And the guys who run it are pretty cool. These are all the guys, are all docs and everything like that. They do like these little podcasts on their YouTube channel. So shout out to the Crypto Bengz. Now, another up and coming project I want to talk about is going to be called Garden Wear. So Garden Wear essentially is a fashion brand which was started by this guy, Busy AF. So he's pretty successful in the Web2 world when it comes to like manufacturing and fashion. They work with a lot of great clients and doing e-commerce and things like that. And he's moving into the NFT space. And one of the projects he's working on is Garden Wear, where he's collaborating with a group of Azuki holders. It's not an official collaboration with Azuki the brand, but obviously, if you have Azuki, you own the IP and things like that. So a group of them got together and they're going to make like these custom jackets for their crew, right? He did work with a lot of like pretty poppin' brands that I definitely know of. And so, the quality of the material and everything is going to be really good. Definitely a project to look out for. So it's like someone who's trying to create fashion for, other communities, which I find pretty interesting. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about, it's not necessarily about NFTs per se, but since I've been in Singapore, I kind of share with you what I'm doing. One of the things I did recently was I tried this flotation tank. And a flotation tank is pretty much like you lay in your birthday suit in this little tank and you're literally floating because there's so much salt in the water that it floats you and you just like meditate. This is actually pretty cool. So if you're ever into meditation, I think I would recommend it. Even if you're not into meditation, I would still also recommend it, because the thing I realized, especially in the NFT space, is sometimes we're always on. We're always checking our phone, always checking Discord, always checking Twitter. What's next? What's next? What's next? It feels like you're juggling, right? It feels like you're doing like a million different things at once because the space is moving so fast. I feel like when you meditate, you take it easy, you take a step back, you start to realize that you don't have to take such a quick approach to everything. Sometimes you can be more strategic strategic, be more focused, and not get caught up with the everyday trends, and just go for solving fundamental problems and thinking more long term, right? And you know, this is an NFT channel. It's not like a self-help channel, but you know, if you are ever feeling like you're anxious or you have anxiety, or you feel like you don't have a rest and you feel like you're nonstop working, meditation is something I'd highly recommend. Journaling is what I recommend. Flotation take, this is obviously kind of bougie. It's an experience for sure that I would recommend people try, because it's very alien-like to like lay in the water and just float. You're literally floating on the water without any effort. Quite an interesting experience if you're in Singapore, or I'm sure they have this like everywhere in like every like major city like LA and New York and stuff. And so with that said, that's everything that we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, because I am on the hotel grind in Singapore, and I will see you guys in the next one.